Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you had a wonderful holiday week and you're refreshed and ready to hit summer again here. So see what we can round up for some business. So we are actually having a very good summer so far. Everybody's been really busy, and we've seen a huge amount of business. That's a good thing. So got a lot of subjects to cost today, or to talk about today. So first thing is money, 5-minute money maker. We're getting into the summer season, so start planning your summer party. So we have both luau's, a party, and we have a barbecue event. Guys, these are awesome things to do for not only the way I looked at it, my annual reviews from my clients were a half hour long. That's all I saw them was for a half hour. But then I also had a summer event and I had a winter event. So I could actually see my clients, because we had about 90% participation for our summer event and probably about a 40-50% participation for the Christmas lights tour in the winter. But I would at least because everybody attended the summer events because they were so fun and they really don't cost that much to do. I was able to see my clients twice a year, once for a half hour and then once as a group, and they were totally happy with that kind of contact, because they were also getting, remember, my epidemic newsletter every single month with a little view into my life. So please be consider doing this. The other thing you're going to be doing is taking tons of pictures, and let's see if we get anybody with a good answer to this. Why do we take tons of pictures at these? Why do we take tons of pictures at these? Nick's got it. See if anybody else gets it. Yeah, Mark's got it. Tom's got it. Yes. So what you do is you're going to take pictures of them, and then the only art I had in my office was collages of all of these events. So you have 4 or 5 of these big picture frames full of collages. Where they're haphazardly put. The pictures are haphazardly put in there. So they're looking at 100, 150 pictures in there. When a client comes in, they're going to look at those pictures, and guess what I now have? I have testimonials. And can I use those testimonials even if I'm an RIA? Yes. So it's a testimonial anybody can use. And what's better? What's a better testimonial than 150 pictures of smiling, happy clients on your walls? Not once, but 3, 4, 5 times after you've had that many events. And invariably, guess what? When they would come in, invariably, guess what they would find in those picture frames? Somebody they knew. So there's lots of reasons to do these events, and they're not that costly. So these are step-by-step guides on how to do it. The 5Q tape breakdown, which is an example of empowering. A lot of guys like to know or have more examples of empowering, because when I will surprise you on a call when I'm coaching with you, and I ask you to do an empowering, or I listen to you a tape with you doing empowering, how long do you think you guys generally do an empowering? How many seconds do you do an empowering? Nick says 20. If you did 20, I'd be happy, Nick. Because I generally find it's about 5 seconds. And you guys feel like it's 20, or you feel like it's a minute, but it's about 5 seconds. And when we're empowering, it's such a powerful tool. You want to be able to go 2 minutes in practice so you can go a minute in real life, because empowering is telling them they are above average. And it's such a powerful tool for making them want to be around you, to sit up and listen to you, be excited about everything you have to say, because you're telling them that they're above average. And so you want to get awesome at that skill. So here's an example of how you can do that. So tax cuts. Let's talk about these tax cuts that just occurred. So how have they been working? How have they been working? Are they doing all the things that they said that the tax cuts were supposed to do? It was supposed to grow the economy, it was explode the economy, because all the companies were going to take all this money and invest it into their companies, and they're going to hire a lot more people, and they're going to invest in infrastructure. Is that what they did? Is that what the companies did with the money? Or did the companies do exactly what everybody said they were going to do? Dale's got it. Sue's got it. Yeah. They bought back. This is exactly what everybody said they were going to do with the tax cut. Is they're going to buy it back, and sure, here's the it's good, right? Because we're seeing the stock market at least not cave. But when you look at all the people that are buying stocks right now, all the reason the stock market is at least treading neutral right now, who's buying all the stocks right now, keeping the market at least neutral? The companies are. Guess how many consumers or retail customers are buying stocks at this point? None. So really, the market should be down right now, but it's up because companies are buying, buybacks with the tax cuts. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, it's a temporary good thing. A long-term what? Bad thing. Why? Why is it a long-term bad thing? What's it do to the bubble when it finally happens? When that thing, when they're done buying, what's going to happen? And are they taking that? Did they take that money like everybody thought and hoped they would, or at least that's what we were told by, the Beltway over in D.C. that they were going to take that money and they're going to invest it in their companies and they're going to invest it in more infrastructure. They're going to invest it in more jobs. They're going to give people raises. Did any of those things happen, guys? No. I mean, we're seeing unemployment low, but what's happened to wages? All these companies are screaming for more people, but what are they refusing to do? Raise wages. Now, if that was the only problem with this, that'd be okay. But the thing is, it's causing the mother of all credit bubbles. And it's not household debt. It's that these companies are taking all these tax cuts and they're doing buybacks, but they're also taking out debt to do that. And are they the only ones that the tax cuts are causing debt to? Who else is seeing debt? Who else is seeing debt? What's happened to the U.S. debt? Because we were told that what? Does the stock market going up actually help lower our debt or lower our no, it doesn't. So they said that, hey, don't worry about it because all the tax cuts are going to do what? They're going to increase our GDP. They're going to make sure that our economy grows. Is the stock market going up? Does it have anything to do with the economy growing? Can the stock market be going up and the economy be contracting? Yeah. So what we're doing is what? What are we doing with all of this debt? Federal debt is headed for the highest level since World War II. Now, in World War II, did we have a reason for high debt? Yeah. Government debt is on track to hit historically high levels at its current growth rate will be nearly equal to the size of the U.S. economy by 2028. Guys, equal to the size of the U.S. economy by 2028. Right now, it's by the end of this year, it's going to reach 78% of the of the GDP. That's the highest ratio since 1950. Well, dudes, here's the deficit. Here's the debt. So is that a problem for us as investors? As investors, you bet, Charles. It is. Why? Why is it a problem? Well, it's going to hurt wages and jobs. It's going to make borrowing more expensive for important investments. So what will that do? What they're talking about is inflation, essentially, right? Harms our children, threatens the safety net. By having this much debt, if we had another 2008, with the debt we have right now, if we have another 2008, can the federal government throw money at the problem like they did in 2008? I mean, the Obama administration threw tons of money. I mean, that's why we got into debt, because they threw tons of money. But then with this tax cut, what happened to debt? That's making that debt look like what? Peanuts. So we don't have enough. So why am I bringing this? Why is this important to us? Why is this important to us? Why am I bringing this up? Not to be a Debbie Downer. Why am I bringing this up? Yeah, that's right, Mark. Mark says why we need FIAs. Yeah, you're right, Sue. We don't want bonds now because bonds are what? As that debt goes up, what's going to happen? It's going to get killed. So this is just another reason. Should we be prepared for the only good times? No. Should we be prepared only for bad times? No. We should be prepared for what? Both. Because just because all of this stuff is happening, I don't know if that's going to cause an implosion. But as we talked about before, do we know what's going to cause the next implosion? So we're at the all-time highs. We're at the longest bull market since God knows when. Interest rates are starting to climb. We've got huge national debt. We've got all sorts of weird things happening in Washington, D.C., and all sorts of weird things happening with our relationships with other countries around the world. Is now the time to be investing tons of money into the stock market? So everybody answer this one. Is now the time to be investing all sorts of money into the stock market? No, in fact, what we should be doing is helping our clients do what? Back out of that, at least to that 50-50. Does that make sense? So I mean, when I'm doing these negative things, all I'm doing is trying to at least give us a balanced viewpoint from all the Pollyannish people out there with their rose-colored glasses on saying everything's terrific. So look at the market. It's not doing bad. Well, it's not doing bad because all the tax cuts that we just gave are going back to the people who own stocks. And when those tax cuts are gone, then that's over. So it just means that let's be cautious. Remember, our clients spent 30 or 40 years saving this money. Let's treat it as our own. We shouldn't be making bets on it right now. Or if we're making bets, we should be making bets on a small part of it, not a huge part of it. Make sense? So how do we get people to trust us quickly? How do we get people to trust us quickly? So there is actually a formula to this, which Wharton School of Business actually came upon. And it comes to 4 steps. First thing is you want to establish credibility. Second is you want to demonstrate warmth. Third is you want to reduce the status difference between you and them. Do people trust people especially boomers? Now again, the greatest generation, they trusted people with a higher status. But do boomers trust people with a higher status, or at least people that give off airs of having a higher status? Do boomers like that? No, they don't, right, Scott? They don't. And then you want to make yourself vulnerable. So let's talk about this. So how do we give people credibility? We just talked about one. What's one great way of giving credibility? We just talked about it. See if you guys are paying attention 5 minutes ago. Gots and empowering is a good way to make them feel good about us, but that's not about credibility. What gives us credibility? Phil's got it. Phil's the only one who's got it. Guys, why did I want you to do a summer event? Yeah, Bonnie's got it. Having all those smiling faces in all of those picture frames in my lobby, guess what that gives me? Could I have that many happy clients if I wasn't a trustworthy advisor? So testimonials in the form of pictures and picture frames of happy people is a great credibility builder. Also, in my office, guess what I had behind me? So guess what? My clients and I sat across the desk from each other. That whole thing about sitting on the same side of the table is BS. That stuff does not work. If you go on a date, if you go on a date and you sit right next to your date, how does she feel? Now, again, not if you've been married for a long time, but in first 3 or 4, yeah, creepy is right, Nick. Creepy as heck. So you sit across from each other. So when they're sitting across from me, I want them looking at me, but guess what else I want on the wall? So I had all of my diplomas, my honorable discharge from the Navy, my Series 7. You can get those in big formal-looking certificates. My Series 65 informal certificates. You can there's entities out there that'll make them look beautiful. And I had them all framed, so they're looking at all of those credibility builders. Guess how often I talked about my credibility? Guess how often I talked about my credibility and my designations and how 0, right? Right, Cheryl, 0. So even when I do a presentation, do I ever talk? Do I ever talk about myself, or do I get right into the presentation? I get right into the presentation. What I used to do is I'd have a pre-show of pictures of my Series 65, of my honorable discharge, of my Series 7, of my CFP, of my insurance license, of my So I had pictures of those, slides of those, and then I would put little simple riddles in between those, and then I would have pictures of my family in between those. So it would go credibility builder certificate of some sort of diploma or whatever. Then I would have family picture. Then I would have a riddle. Then I would have a certificate. Then I would have a picture of the family. Then I would have a riddle, and it would automatically run about every 7 seconds. They would see a slide, and because of that, all of my bragging was done before I actually began the presentation. So I do want them to know that I'm a credible person, but I want them to see it and not for me to have to say it, if that makes sense. You probably heard me say this before. I had so many clients comment. I had way more clients comment about my ability to write upside down than they did about my financial acumen. So why were they so impressed? Or what does writing upside down tell them about me? What's it tell them about me? I'm experienced. I've been doing this a lot. That gives me credibility. Writing upside down gives me credibility. And some of my biggest, in fact, two of the guys I know that made way more than me, they actually spent a weekend, both of them spent weekends learning to write upside down, and they used it every single client meeting, And obviously knowing your stuff, etc. So these are different ways to build credibility without bragging. So then you want to demonstrate warmth. How can you demonstrate warmth? One of the biggest ways to do this is with touch. So when you go out to greet them, you need to shake their hand warmly and hold it just a second longer than you normally would hold it. And look them in the eye. Put your other hand on their shoulder or on their forearm. There's huge amounts of data, psychology, and science that says when we touch somebody and we have eye contact, the credibility goes straight up, the warmth goes up, the connection goes straight up. Spend time becoming a warmer person and looking people in the eyes, shaking hands a little bit longer, and touching people in appropriate ways. Smile. Practice smiling. You should be smiling all the time. Learn to laugh. And of course, we teach you and beat into your heads, we need to listen. Warm people listen. Now, this eye contact and smiling, just try this for a week or two. And I've had guys that do this to say that their world turned 180 degrees. Make eye contact with everybody you see and give them a smile. When you're walking in a parking lot, give eye contact and smile. When you I'll give you an example of this. Because I'd done this coaching call and it was reminding me to do this, I went to the grocery store on Sunday morning to get a breakfast stuff for the family. So yesterday I was at the grocery store and at 9 in the morning. And I did this because I wrote this the coaching call. This is so fresh in my mind because I try to do if you don't constantly remind yourself to do these things, you forget to do them. So I purposely did this in the grocery store. Guess how many people, when I gave eye contact and smiled, guess how many people said hi to me? And the grocery store was not busy. I counted 6 people. They actually, they basically were right, Charles. It was everyone. 6 people said hi to me when I gave them eye contact and smiled. They said hi. So why do we want to practice that with strangers in a grocery store, in a parking lot, in the mall, at church? Why do we want to practice that with strangers? So that first of all, it becomes so natural, right, Cheryl? It becomes natural, becomes a habit, so that we become, it's just what we do and who we are. You've heard fake it till you make it. Fake like you're warm until you are warm. Make sense? Reduce status difference. So people always ask, "What did you wear, Mike?" Well, when I did seminars for the public, I would always come in a suit and tie, and then I would ask, "Do you mind if I take my jacket off?" And they'd all say, "Yeah, take it off. Take your tie off too." And I said, "Well, how about if can I at least relax my tie?" And then I would unbutton my top button, relax my tie, and I'd roll up my sleeves. So I came in formal and then got their permission to come down to their level. And were they happy with me coming down to their level? Yeah, they were. And when I met people in my office, I had in my closet, when I was meeting clients, I had 5 pairs of black pants, I had about 7 or 8 white shirts, and I had my choice was silver ties. So I had 3 or 4 silver ties. And I had a uniform. When I went to work, it was black pants, white shirt, silver tie. Black pants, white shirt, silver tie. And my sleeves are always rolled up. So I gave them the appearance that I'm not slighting them. I'm not acting, but by being only in a shirt and tie, you probably heard this. You should dress 7 levels above the people you're with, or just 1 level above the people you're with. Just 1 level. Just 1 level. So that's what I was doing with a shirt and tie and rolled up sleeves in my office. Does that make sense? And that's why I would come in a suit and then ask their permission to strip down, basically, when I was at a seminar. Don't use big words. And I actually made that mistake with you guys here a few minutes ago using acumen when I could have just said some other word other than acumen. Don't use big words. When I listen to tapes, guys, I love words. Vocabulary is a huge hobby of mine. Where words came from, the spelling of words. I love words. But when I'm with a client, guess what I go way out of my way to do? Use big words, or go way out of my way to make sure if I hear a big word coming out of my mouth, to use a more simple word. In fact, in our presentations, are there times in our scripts that we say, correlation, which is just a fancy schmancy word for if not having all of your eggs in one basket. So I apologize actually for clients for when I have to use big words, and I have to use correlation because that's what the Morningstar calls it. So I actually have to use that word, or they won't, because that's what Morningstar calls it. But then I'm going to apologize for that by saying that's just a fancy schmancy word for not having all your eggs in one basket, or having a little bit more diversified portfolio. So don't use big words. And it's hilarious, guys. What do you think I tell guys? And this has happened to me several times in the last 18 years, where guys say, well, I can't really, I've tried, I just can't use simpler words. Guys, they're saying they're so smart and their vocabulary is so vast that they can't use simple words. They have to use it. Guys, how bright are they? How bright are you if you tell me that you can't use simpler words than what you're using? You're acting like you're super smart, that all I know is big $1,000 words. No, you're not very smart. If you can't take a unknown or an esoteric or a more complicated word and use it in a smaller word, then you are not that bright. So if you only know big words, but you can't break them down into small words or make them more simple, you're not that bright. So don't use big words. Don't tell, sell, preach, and teach. So how does the way we present, where we ask open-ended questions and give them little verbal pats on the back, how does that reduce their status difference? Because we're saying, wow, because we're learning from them. We're saying, wow, that's awesome that we empower them. See, we reduce the status by listening closely to what they have to say. We got them. It shows sincere interest in what they are saying. If you've ever talked to, how would you feel if you were a big basketball fan and LeBron James sat down with you? I don't know how you feel about LeBron. I'm just using because he's a huge name. Sat down with you, and he was sincerely interested in what you had to say. How would that make you feel? How would that make you feel? Yeah, it would make you feel great. Make you feel awesome, because he's reducing his status. He's listening. Maybe he wants to know how you fish. He's really interested in fishing because he's going fishing. So what's he done with his status when he's letting you teach him about fishing? That's right, Dave. He's just like me. He's saying he's just like me. I've got things to teach you. You got things to teach me. It's a give and take. That's what reduces that status difference. And then show vulnerability. So how do you show vulnerability? Tell a bad joke and apologize for it. Make a simple mistake. In fact, you know what they found? They've actually taught psychologists and psychiatrists to do this. Is they'll actually have the psychologist, psychiatrist spill their pencils, their cup of pencils on the floor for the first meeting. Why would they have the psychologist or psychiatrist spill their pencils on the floor of the first meeting? Because it shows that what? They make mistakes like everybody else. They're human, exactly. Confess a minor weakness. So do we confess minor weaknesses when we talk about the non-financial things in the 21-point checklist? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Self-deprecating humor. So if you can make a joke about yourself, that's a great thing as well. And admit to getting something wrong or finding things difficult, whether it's math. I mean, I would confess that I'll constantly with people, geez, this math always bites my butt. Do you mind if I take a calculator out and we do it together? So self-deprecating humor, letting them know that you have that some things are difficult for you. You don't. Where I want to be smooth, I learned to write upside down so I could be smooth that way. But I always look for little ways to bring myself more down to their level, and you do that by showing vulnerability. It actually ties into reducing your status difference, doesn't it? So there is a formula for getting people to like you and to instantly trust you in the first minute by establishing credibility, demonstrate that your warmth, reduce status difference, make yourself vulnerable. Guys, how much should you go through this part of the coaching call? Is it worth going through this part of the coaching call 2-3 times and maybe even printing those slides and looking at them on a regular basis? Because if you can, this is how you gain people's trust instantaneously. I would highly, highly recommend that you do that, okay? So now let's talk about complaints. We would all like to have 0 complaints, wouldn't we? So I was looking at some information that was accumulated from both the National Association of Insurance Commissioners and the Securities Exchange Commission and FINRA. And they looked at how many complaints on different products occurred in 2017. Fixed index annuities, nationwide, only 210 complaints. FINRA had 3,002, and the SEC had 4,293. So if you don't want complaints just based on this information, what kind of product should you be selling? But you say, wait, Mike. That's not the whole story. You're playing games with numbers. Because you know what? There was a lot more securities sold than FIA sold. You are correct. So let's look at the actual numbers then. There are 80,000 to 120,000 agents selling FIAs. It's a big number because any particular year, some agents don't sell FIAs. They only sell once a year because they're doing it part-time, etc. So, but even at 80 to 120, they're saying there was one FIA complaint for every 1,000 to 1,500 agents. With the 21-point checklist, guys, are you going to be better than 1,000 to 1,500 agents? Yes. So doing FIAs with the 21-point checklist, you're basically getting 0 complaints. There are 425,000 to 476,000 registered reps seeing customers. There's more than that are registered, but there are a lot of admin staff and managerial staff, etc. But there's 425 to 476,000 registered reps actually seeing customers. So if we add the 3,002 and the 4,293, 3,002 from FINRA, the 4,293 from the SEC, because they were separate complaints, that's 7,295 complaints. That means there's 1 complaint for every 58 to 65 registered reps. So would you rather have a complaint will be 1 out of 1,000 chance of a complaint happening to you, or a 1 out of 58 chance of something happen to you? I know what I'd rather have. But again, even with a registered rep, the 21-point checklist, is that going to make you better than 58 to 65? Better, if you put 65 registered reps in the room, are you going to be the best one in the room? At least to avoid complaints. Why? Why would, of all the 65 in there, why would you be the least likely to get a complaint out of those 65 reps? Dave's got it. We go over the good, bad, and ugly, Nick. I agree with that. Absolutely. That's one reason. Because the client told us, Charles, excellent. There's another reason. Because it's all through and disclosed. Dave, that's right. And we also did what? Things we did or did not get paid for. Motivational interviewing? Absolutely, Mike. So all of those reasons are going to lower your complaints. So, but that means that you're 15 times more likely to get a complaint selling securities and FIAs. So does it make sense for us to have money in FIAs? It certainly does, for any number of reasons. So there's $525 billion in FIAs purchased. 99.98% have not filed a complaint. So if you want to avoid complaints, if you want to avoid regulators, what kind of product should you sell? Now, again, we're not just selling 100% FIAs, but if we have a big chunk in FIAs, that's going to help reduce the overall chance of a complaint. Well, if you think about it, guys, why do FIAs have less complaints? Why do they have less complaints? What's the worst can happen to you? No loss, right? No loss. So if you want to simplify your life, make sure you're putting at least 50% in FIAs. Because, guys, are bond securities. They didn't break this down, but I sold bonds at Wells Fargo Bank. And I saw guys get huge complaints on bonds because when in our presentation for on interest rate volatility, we show that bonds will go down when interest rates go up. Well, I tell you what, I was in the bank. I didn't sell this lady a bond, but I was in the bank when interest rates had gone up 0.5%, and she lost 30% in her bond portfolio. Interest rates only went up 0.5%. She lost 30% in her bond portfolio. It was because the guys that sold her the bonds had taken such a big cut of the when they sold it to her for a commission, which she did not know about, that it was the interest rate change exacerbated how much money she left. Believe me, people make tons of complaints with bonds because people go into bonds thinking why when people buy bonds, what do they think is going to happen? Why do they buy bonds? Safe. So when they get their statement, and these bonds that they bought at $10,000 are now worth $7,500, are they just stymied about what the hell happened? Yes, they are. So we need to have that safe money in FIAs, not in bonds. That's what Ibbotson says. It's what Marion says. There's tons of proof now that we need to do it. So, does that mean we always do 50-50? No, it doesn't. No. We don't always do 50-50. We do our weighting script. And we let them tell us how much they want in safe. They tell us how much they want in safe. It's just that in 18 years, guess how often people want more than 50% of, when you use the scripts, guess how often people want more than 50% in the market? Yeah. 65,000 tapes, and I can't remember one where they wanted more in the market because essentially guys, are we working with people that have a good retirement? Yes, that's the plan, right? So do they want to risk that good retirement for twice as much as they have right now? No, they just want to keep it, exactly. They just want to keep it. So simplify your life. Have equities for growth, have FIAs for safe, and you're going to have a lot less complaints, and a lot less complaints is simplifying your life, okay? So when you mastered the crib notes and motive, your daily practice in MIFT and GOTS, and you're listening to those 5-minute money makers and breakdowns, that's when you're going to bring on every client you want. And remember, summers can be a little bit slower, so now is a great time to make sure you got a couple of hours, even a couple of times, and maybe 4 hours, 2 hours one day, 2 hours a different day during the week, that go back and just keep hammering in those 21-point checklist scripts. Like I said, I've told you over and over, in the last year, there are more people that know the 21-point checklist than have ever known it in the 18 years we've been coaching. But don't lose or let those skills get rusty in the summer. Make sure you keep going back and you have some slots in your calendar to keep getting better and better and better at those things. And please go ahead, and I'll have Missy shoot me in the foot for saying this, but we'll go ahead and see if we can't put those that one slide of those slides of how you instill trust quickly and easily, so that you'll have those available as well. So thanks, guys. Have a great end of the week. I wish it was the end of the week. It's unfortunately the beginning of the week. Have a great rest of the week, and then we'll talk to you all on Monday. Thanks, everybody.